Good night, viewers, and welcome to this another program of Advancing the Cause. This program comes to you every Wednesday night from 18:30 hours to 20 hours. The official host of this program is the Honorable Coretta McDonald, AA, MP, and General Secretary of the Guyana Teachers Union. Miss McDonald is otherwise engaged in matters of national interest, and therefore she could not have been here on this program tonight. And for that, I want to tender an apology. My name is Dennis Jaikran, and I would be host of this program for tonight. Normally, we say to you that our topics for all of these programs are derived from and in consultation with our viewers across this country. And therefore, tonight, having consulted and agreed upon with our viewers, and based on the areas to be discussed, there is an agreement that the program for tonight, the topic, so to speak, is the coming days. The coming days. You know, we would have on other programs or previous programs outlined to you the order in which, excuse me, the order in which we would have this program. But the order tonight is going to be in terms of numbers. And so as we go through this program, we are going to indicate to you number one, number two, and we go on like that. And so because of the issues, the seriousness, so to speak, of these issues, we are going to take some time to deal with some of these submissions from our viewers, the concerns in different communities, in different agencies, ministries, in different regions and organizations. And so tonight, our first subject, topic, so to speak, for discussion is something that we have been saying to the viewers. And it would appear as though very many persons, concerned persons, the viewers, members of the public have indicated that there would have been an important area in which we spoke about some time ago, and that there's need for us to be able to repeat what we would have said because it is a very serious matter. It is an indictment on the part of the police, the regional education officer, the school's welfare officer, and a number of agencies and persons. And so, what is it that would have been requested of this program is that there is this continuous, so to speak, sale, promotion, and production of nude pictures, vulgar, so to speak, that is so duplicated and sold to members of the public, school children, and other persons. And so it is alleged that the person who is doing this is a vendor who is plying this trade, so to speak, at the Anna Regina car park and the charity market. And since it was so important, viewers, parents would have indicated that we should bring it to the attention of the public so that the concerned persons, the regional education officer of Region 2, the school's welfare officers of Region 2, the police at the Anna Regina Police Station, and all other concerned persons, agencies, and ministries are again advised of this situation allegedly that is causing confusion and bringing harm to our learners, not only at the secondary school, but in primary school in and around the Charity area and in and around the Anna Regina area. Because let me repeat that this trade, it is alleged, is being done by a vendor who vends at both the Charity market and the Anna Regina car park area. This program wishes at this stage, because this is a serious indictment and an infraction, so to speak, and it is causing indiscipline in our school system, to once again call out the regional education officer, Region 2, the school's welfare officers of Region 2, the police at the Anna Regina Police Station, because these are all allegations, and we are asking, this program is asking based on the request of concerned citizens, for them to so address, so that we can be able in a very special way to be very cautious about this situation. But you see, it is difficult for the school's welfare officers to be able to attend to these matters. And why this is so? It is alleged that one of these school welfare officers is engaged in contractual agreement and arrangements, meaning that he's getting contract to supply meals for every event and activity at the level of the regional administration and the Department of Education, Region 2, allegedly. It is further alleged that this same school's welfare officer has a subcontract for millions of dollars for work to be done allegedly at the Mazaruni prisons. This is serious. This allegation as put is very serious. And that is why we are having serious indiscipline, not only in our secondary schools in Region 2, but at all the other secondary schools, and these matters are closed, so to speak. But you hear them, and teachers would say that to this program. Recently, there was a big situation, a fight, so to speak, among students at the Abramsville Secondary School. And students were not only warned, but threatened if they so share that video of the fight, that their phones would be confiscated and that they would be suspended from school. If the education system in this country is so open, why are we in the education system allegedly threatening our students when these infractions are committed? And so the school's welfare department needs to up what they are paid for in terms of taxpayers' money, state money, and to perform their duties diligently. This has not been done. And so we are of the opinion on this program that we should bring it to your attention. Now, as I'm dealing with this situation, let me speak to the issue here of the new Abramsville Secondary School. And so there was this big fanfare about this opening of this school. But let me give you the story of this school. The idea was birthed to construct that new building during the period of the coalition. And funding would have been sought and approved for the construction of the building, the new Abramsville Secondary School, during the period of the coalition. And so, if any credit is due for the design and for the approval of that design and for the sums of money that would have been there to construct that school, that credit should go to the coalition government. But there's a bigger story to that, because at the time when that school was constructed, those students, the learners, were accommodated at the Aurora Secondary School. And the official head teacher of that school would have been allowed to function continuously while that school was under construction and while the students were housed at Aurora Secondary to continue the work as was set out based on the appointment of the head teacher. But the story began, and it is alleged that there were very many meetings with the school board, the education committee of Region 2, the regional education officer Region 2, the regional administration Region 2, and a host of persons who time and again allegedly met and decided that the official head teacher of this school should not have an opportunity to go into the new school, meaning the new Abramsville Secondary School. But the story is told that on one Sunday night, the regional education officer, who was then performing the acting, so to speak, and now confirmed, took a letter to the home of this head teacher, advising this head teacher to ask for early retirement and to allow her to have her full benefits. And so, having been afraid of this proposal and knowing well the pressure that she would have been under, so to speak, if she went into that new school, the pressure that was said to her and the misguided letter and advice from the regional education officer, maybe that head teacher complied. And so that head teacher had no opportunity of going into that new building to serve. That is an indictment. It is a sin. But both the head teacher of the Abramsville Secondary School and the deputy head teacher, because they are all closely affiliated to the PPP, and because they are carrying out the work, the dirty work allegedly of the PPP on other members of staff, they were appointed administratively. And so eligible persons did not have an opportunity to compete for those two positions. And so what would have been done, and what is happening at that school, teachers are complaining, parents are complaining, learners are complaining. They are not only complaining of the way in which the school is managed, but that school would have been open with this big fanfare. Credit to the coalition government for ensuring the design, the approval of the design, the necessary public advertisement for the construction of that building, and the approval and for the funding sought. And again, I repeat, if any credit is due for that new building, it is the coalition government. But here it is. There is evidence that there are tremendous physical infractions in that school. The allegations are that we have serious electrical problems, broken toilets. New school I'm talking about, no running water to flush the toilets. Cracks on the walls. The paint is now peeling, so to speak, on the walls. Windows are falling apart. And despite the fact you have, so to speak, tremendous overstaffing at that school and all the other schools across this country, more particularly primary and secondary schools, it is confusion as to how to set the timetable, not only at Abramsville Secondary, but in the secondary schools across this country. And how this program is aware of this? Because some regional officials, I'm not identifying whether it's from the regional administration or the Department of Education, but persons have been saying to this program that there is tremendous staffing in all the secondary and primary and some of the nursery schools in this country. and there's mass of confusion. But now that we are on that here, in terms of this overstaffing of these schools, it is good time to call out the office of the Auditor General, so that when it's time for him, the office of the Auditor General, to speak of the issue of staffing details in the Auditor General's report, that there's going to be a true reflection, because the public wants to know, taxpayers want to know, how is it state money is spent in this direction. And so the Auditor General must answer to that in his report. The Finance Secretary must say something about that. The Accountant General must say something about that. But then it goes back again. How are these schools overstaffed? Now, for schools to have a vacancy filled, there are a number of procedures to be followed, starting from creating the list of both junior and senior vacancies. And then there is this whole process of public advertisement, application, shortlisting, interviews, and appointments made by the Teaching Service Commission. Now, if by chance you have overstaffing, it is as a result of bad management of every level at the Department of Education, at every level of the Ministry of Education, starting from the district education officers, the regional education officers, the PEO Georgetown, all the ACOs, nursery, primary, secondary, the Deputy Chief Education Officer, Administration, and the Chief Education Officer, who is an ex officio member of the Teaching Service Commission. And so when these levels of overstaffing would take place, then it has to be that the Ministry of Education and the levels under that, meaning the heads of departments of education and the DOs, are not functioning effectively. Under the rules, all of them should be surcharged and made to be paid to pay back sums of money that would have allowed the system to be overstaffed. But are these heads of education department, are they properly appointed? Are they the best persons in the education system to be there? Is the Chief Education Officer and all the DCOs and ACOs, are they fit to be there? The answer is a straight no. All were pitchforked in the positions that they cannot function, and they are making a mess, complete mess of the education system. And so when the World Bank would have put out that report about the poor performance, not only in Guyana, but the Caribbean as it relates to the CSEC results, we get on high horses in this country, and we are annoyed and vexed, so to speak, of what the World Bank would have said. Poor results at CSEC. But it is further to that. Look at the billions we are spending in this country for education. And every time you spend billions, increasing every year the budgetary allocation for education, there is a decline in the performance of our learners at CSEC and at the National Grade 6. Now, this is so because of a number of reasons. And because of time on this program, we would not be able to list all of those reasons. But one of the reasons, main reasons, would be that we are not paying our teachers right. We are not allowing our teachers to benefit from teaching learning materials at the different levels. We are not allowing our schools to be adequately provided with the necessary pieces of equipment to deliver the education system. We are not providing an opportunity for our teachers to be comfortable as it relates to the physical environment of the school. We are harping on them for record keeping that might not be relevant for the delivery of the education program. But let us come to deal with NSWORD. But I understand that is a big proposal. And you see, once you can betray your teachers, you're identified for higher offices. And our teachers during the last protest action for 70 something days, maybe more than that, I can't recall. At the time of finalizing salaries that they ought to get for them to perform and in keeping in line with some of our Caribbean countries, the system of bargaining was betrayed. And because you are good at betraying, some people were identified. I understand, and it is alleged that one such person would have been identified as director of NSWORD. I make that point to say now that NSWORD is a failed unit, like the exams division, and I'm going to come to that. NSWORD is a failed unit of the Ministry of Education. And why this is so? Because if you check at NSWORD, and I was there 2 days ago, and last week also, and I was speaking to some of those who are there, and you get that clear impression from them that they do not have any sense of direction, where they want to go. How are they going to get there? And it is alleged that the person who is heading NSWORD, I don't know what position that person holds, but heads NSWORD, is a total misfit. And very many persons who are employed there are not fit to do the work. For example, there is no test development unit any longer there. So how are we going to expect that for the National Grade 6 assessment, and the mock examinations in this country at the different levels, how are items going to be properly constructed following all the guidelines are set out for the proper construction of items. Recently, maybe 2 weeks ago, the students who would be engaging in CSEC, they had a mock exam in mathematics. That was a complete disaster and failure. And let me start from all levels of the disaster. There is a coordinator for mathematics intervention in this country. And mind you, we are going to ask the question about the sums of money that would have been spent on mathematics invention and what is the corresponding result as it relates to CSEC this year. But let me come back to the intervention. Millions of dollars are allocated for that. But the question is, and teachers are asking, because it is not having a trickle-down effect to our teachers to benefit. Because a group of persons, it is alleged, friends, families, and favorites of those who are there in the ministry, are benefiting from the proceeds that are allocated, allegedly. And so you are not getting the desired results. And so the first thing is that I'm making the point of the poor management of the mock examination mathematics CSEC 2025, that all the questions were poorly constructed. There was no mark scheme set out to guide our teachers to mark these responses. Further to that, items were poorly constructed. Maybe I've said that early on, but in a different way. The normal thing for any examination at that level would be that all the papers would be printed at NSORD. And regions would go, some regions, region 2, region 3, region 4, region 5, region 6, and 10 would go to NSORD the day before and to collect these papers, lodge them at the stations in these different regions nearer to the Department of Education. And those boxes would have two locks. One, the Department of Education would keep it, and the second one, the keys rather, the police would keep that. This did not happen in this examination. So the reliability of it is questionable. And so these regions were not allowed the chance to benefit from the printed papers and distributed from NSOR or from the examination division. Each region would have been asked to print their own papers, and the soft copy of it would have been sent to these regions 1 week before. The question is, were these questions credible? They were not because there might be leakage of papers. Because if you have this competition among our secondary schools, what do you think would happen? If these papers are in the hands of our teachers, and you are not giving our teachers any fault about this, because the Ministry of Education is not treating our teachers right. And our teachers want to show that they can give results, but they do not have the support. And the conduct of the exam was another story there. And so this whole thing, teachers are now complaining. These questions were not numbered, and our teachers are complaining, how do we mark these questions? And so the millions of dollars, viewers, let us be mindful, because the millions of dollars that are being spent on the mathematics invention in this country, now having a national coordinator for this intervention, we need to ask questions. The viewers need to ask questions. Now I come to the science fair, the National Science Fair. That is a total disaster. I understand a piece of correspondence, badly structured piece of correspondence from the senior education officer secondary would have been sent to these regions, and the Redos are laughing this piece of correspondence. Though it is late, there is no proper instruction to our Redos and to our head teachers. And you are sending 1 month before a piece of correspondence to our schools for them to be able to prepare our students, our teachers, to prepare our students for the National Science Fair. This system is disastrous. There is no planning in the education system. And because there is no planning, our learners are the persons who are what we call feeling the squeeze. And how this is there? This is there because the persons that are placed in these positions are all misfit, are all square pegs in round holes. They do not have an idea as to how to manage the education system in this country. And this education system, like the health system, like the regional development and local government system, they are all failing and collapsing every single day in this country. And when you speak to persons who work in these ministries and the departments in the various regions, you get that impression that they are not comfortable the way they are treated in situations. You know, it is alleged that there are serious infractions at the Oscar Joseph Hospital in Charity. It is alleged that very many items cannot be accounted for. And before I go down in any way, I ask at this stage, where is the activism of the Office of the Auditor General as it used to be during the period 2015-2020? I hope because we are taking note of this. The public, when I say we, are saying the public, taking note of the disappearance of all of these items at the Oscar Joseph Cottage Hospital or the district hospital. And this program is now calling out the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Health, the Office of the Auditor General, to take a serious look at the infractions as alleged at both the ration store and the drugstore, this drugs bond, so to speak, at all of these public facilities in this country, more particularly public hospital study, West Demerara Regional Hospital, the Bartica Hospital, the Oscar Joseph Hospital, because we receive information allegedly on what is happening, and it is the duty of this program to bring it to the attention. Now, it is painful to know that there is an allegation that an assistant, office assistant, who is not qualified in any way or in any form, but is very closely aligned to a public officer who is also a politician allegedly, was asked to function as an accounts clerk at the Oscar Joseph Hospital. No qualification, none of the procedures as it relates to employment would have been followed, no vacancy declared, no application, no shortlisting, no interview. Unqualified person, an office assistant, and it is alleged that this person is creating havoc, so to speak, at charity, ill-treating, mistreating members of the public and members of staff who are not comfortable with the performance. But further to that, it is further alleged that at the same Oscar Joseph Hospital, that a pathway worker without any level of qualification would have been appointed administrator. There is no administrator. There is no senior clerk based on the inventory of that institution. And there was no time that a proposal was made to establish such a position and to fill such vacancy. And so due procedure was not followed. But a pathway worker, underqualified, no qualification, so to speak, would have been appointed. But it is further alleged that because of the mismanagement of that institution, a senior member of public hospital study, health worker, was placed there. And that person was placed there under conditions that a person was given a state vehicle, and a driver assigned to that person to take the person to and from work. But despite the fact that particular condition, there are reports and allegations that this person would reach work at 10 and would leave at 2 every day, allegedly. And so we are calling out the Regional Health Officer, Region 2, the REO, Region 2, to answer to these allegations, because it is the misuse of public funds It is the misuse of public facilities. It is the misuse of government employees, meaning a driver assigned to that person. And these questions need to answer, because if you go and when you go to charity at that hospital, the doctors keep complaining of the attitude of this person. But this person was appointed into that senior position without the required qualifications. And the entry qualification of that person, having been there for some 20 years or more, remains the same. So the entry qualification and 20 years after remain the same. Is that any level of professional development or improvement in qualification? But yet we promote and appoint these persons to mismanage. That is why I said early on, health in crisis, education in crisis, the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, which will take care of all the regional administration, all the REOs and the staff, all of them. While some of them are willing to function, they cannot because of political interference. And the power that some of these REOs bestowed upon these employees. And so I come to the point, because we have been making this point time and again. This program would have brought to the attention of the viewers of this unauthorized and illegal mechanical workshop in a residential area, causing dust, noise, and chemical pollution. And so GPL was called out, and GPL failed in its bid. So if the general manager or whatever structure they have, or any person from GPL, tell them that they have compromised not only in that workshop, but all the other workshops where they are allowing persons who are consuming at the domestic level, or are using, rather, who are using industrial level to pay for domestic level. Illegal connections. But they walk away from that because they know they might know their own benefits. NIS. You know, in 1969, the late Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, with his wisdom, allowed for the setting up of the national insurance scheme of this country. But maybe our founder leader is turning in his grave because that particular institution is totally mismanaged. And in the different regions where you have those employees, they are more self-serving than they are public servants. And they are very selective in what they do as it relates to how do they brief persons who are supposed to pay their rightful dues to NIS, how they pay the reduced dues. This is an infraction and indictment. GRA. GRA is also a compromised agency, very selective in how they operate as it relates to businesses. You have a whole set of, let me term it, bushram shops, illegal shops, rum shops across this region. And the GRA turns a black, despite the fact they were written to And these are things that are causing social problems in communities and in homes. And who do you point fingers to? GRA, not doing what they're supposed to do. Ministry of Labor. You know, one of the worst ministers ever in labor in this country is Joseph Hamilton. Joseph Hamilton is a total failure as a minister. And I had to bring to his attention the other day when he was trying to tell the public that they are now engaged in the Ministry of Education to do certain things. But I pointed out to him that under the PNC government, we had work study attachment, we had career fairs, we had days set aside in which persons were going to do their resume, how to write up a resume, how to write up an application. He is telling people, wanting people to believe that this is it. It is an old intervention. And was a valuable intervention then under the People's National Congress. And so this failed Joseph Hamilton, despite the fact he was told of this unauthorized and illegal workshop. None of the persons there complying with the occupational health and safety standards and rules based on the laws, no protective gear. The whole environment is not fit. And he has never intervened or caused his officers to intervene. Because that ministry is a waste of time under his watch. And then the big one, the Environmental Protection Agency. I want the public to know, and I want if the director or executive director of the Environmental Protection Agency is listening to this program, for that director of or executive director and all the staff of the Environmental Protection Agency to very well know that they are paid by state money. The taxpayers of this country pay them. And for them to understand that they are all public servants. And they work under the Environmental Protection Agency Act. And in that act sets out to deal with what I was saying early on. How do persons in different environment and places being protected from dust, noise, and chemical pollution? But they also are very selective in how they do and carry out operations. And that is also a failed agency collecting taxpayers' money, the state money, under false pretense. Maybe it might be good for an audit to be done based on their performance. And I hope the Auditor General, the Office of the Auditor General, would ensure that funds allocated to the Environmental Protection Agency is properly accounted for in the different ways and in the different forms. Let me now turn our attention very quickly to teachers training in this country. The Cyril Potter College of Education. It is sad to know what teachers training would have been watered down to over the past years, more so under this PPP administration. It is alleged that there is no level of entry requirement. And this is so because they want, allegedly, their own persons or people who are not adequately qualified to enter into teachers' training college. And so when you speak to the lecturers, they are very frustrated. And why they are frustrated, they have no program to teach towards. And because they were a teachers' training college, and they knew then what would have been the standard and the level, and what they have to teach at a very lower level, lower than CSEC, some of them said to us. It is sad. It is alleged also that they were told in no uncertain term that their duty is to deliver. Their duty is to ensure that 100% of these teachers not pass, but pass through teachers training college. And in these days, because things are so hard, cost of living is at its top. And if persons want to be employed, you cannot be annoyed with them, so they go and become teachers. But there are negative repercussions there. Because when you speak to these head teachers, because all would graduate at CPC, all would go into the teaching service, all would be appointed by the Teaching Service Commission, all would be placed in our schools. Excuse me. All would be consumed in the education system, but all would not be performing for the benefit of our learners. And that is why we would continue to have poor results at CSEC. And let this government tell you that at grade 7, at the entry level into secondary schools, let them tell you what numbers you have at secondary school at the grade 7, and let them point out to you what number is right in CSEC. And ask them, the chief education officer, all the deputy chief education officers, none of them who can write a proper memo. And that is why you might have that bad, so to speak, result at English A. Ask them the question, what are they delivering, or what are they causing to be delivered to our learners? All these things happen because of poor management of education. As Minister of Education, you have to be humble and polite. You have to be very sincere to what you do. You have to be a public figure with honesty and sincerity. You have to be a role model, not a model of roles. And so that our teachers can emulate a Minister of Education. But if you look at the Ministers of Education that we had in this country, if you have to name 2 words, you can't have 2, but I'm saying the coining of it, 2 words, and what is worse than one would be Priya Manik-Chan and Sheikh Baksh. Sheikh Baksh is the #1 worst. He destroyed education completely. And Priya is helping to bury Ministry of Education in this country, not knowing anything about education, turning suds, not realizing that they are constructing schools, taking into consideration What are the facets and aspects of schools? How is it ought to be constructed? They are not using in any way or in any form the non-academic norms. I wonder if the Minister of Education knows about non-academic norms. But this program is not responding to anybody. So if tomorrow morning the minister gets on our high horses and want to respond to this program, we move forward. We allow them to stay back. They can rant and rage and call people names, and they can find fault in people, but we move forward. We have to move this country forward. The time is coming for us to make that serious decision. And we have to make it. We have to make that serious decision, because all of these systems are broken to the extent that we have to spend time to repair these systems. And so CPC, coming back to that, I ask teachers in training, very simple, and lecturers at CPC, do you have a college hymn book? Or college, do you have the booklet with songs, college songs? That was strange to them. That was a question of hinterland. They didn't know that. They have never seen or known. I asked a further question. Do you have assembly? Far and apart. Do you know all the students in your batch? No. Do you sing your college song? They don't know what is college song. What system of teachers training are we building in this country? The time we spend, the educators now, to bring down people, starting from the minister, the CEO, the DCO, all of them. And I indicated some time ago that I am willing at any time to convene classes, professional classes, and how is it to manage the Ministry of Education with the minister, the permanent secretary, the chief education officer, all the officers of the departments of education, all the senior officers of the Ministry of Education. I am willing to conduct classes with them, professional classes, so that they can be able to move the Ministry of Education, the standard. But they are not taking me on. But I'm waiting when the time is right for delivering that. And that time is coming very soon. And so CPC, the program is watered down, so to speak. Don't worry with all these interventions that you hear. And last week they had an intervention at the Abramsville Secondary School. That was laugh. The teachers met me after, and they said to me that that was a total disaster. That was a laugh. And the teachers of that school and the other Regina Multilateral School, they are complaining bitterly of the management of that school as it relates to the school boards in both of those schools. And from all indication, parents would have indicated that none of them, the two of them at the Abramsville Secondary School, nor at the Anna Regina Multilateral School, are fit for being persons managing the school board. And now that I'm coming to school board, let me deal with one of these technical vocational institutions where a former chairman of one of these boards would have caused to happen. A fundraising activity in the form of a barbecue, and lecturers and learners, workers, so to speak, employees, are complaining bitterly that they were forced and threatened to buy barbecue tickets. And here is why this former chairman of this board of this technical vocational institution wanted to raise funds, because they were not paid stipend from that institution. And some of them paid themselves. And if they are listening to the program, they would know to which or whom is the person as it relates to the chairman, a former chair. And he was kicked out of that school board because he was trying to use the authoritarian measure to try to want to manage the principal and staff of that institution, not knowing anything about excuse me, about technical education. And the present school board of that particular technical vocational institution, their big idea is to plant fruit trees in the compound, because they don't know the technical program. They don't know what is the Caribbean vocational qualification all about, what is the national vocational qualification. They don't know. So they are going about planting fruit trees to give to the children. They are part of waste of time. All of them, waste of time. And so among the persons of the school board person, there's a pastor. And this is not to degrade our pastors. They are good people in their own ways and in their own forms. But in this way, if the person would have stretched his or her hand, the pastor, to collect money, then that is a bad way. So CPC is in a compromised situation. The facilities are very, very, very compromising, as it is there, and it is alleged that so many things happen at this thing there. What is the CEO doing about these things? Is there any structural arrangement at the highest level in the Ministry of Education, where once upon a time there was a Deputy Chief Education Officer Development that was responsible for NSORD and teachers training and other areas? NSORD, book distribution unit, exams division, and so CPC. Do they have that structure? The answer is straightforward no, because I would have found out. Rather, this program would have found out and found that not to be in place. So what is happening with the Ministry of Education? Like the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, they are total failures, because all of these regions, none would have completed the PSIP at even 75% at the end of the 31st of December 2024. And I come to contracts that would have been signed in 2024 on the 29th of December 2024, contracts for 2024 to be concluded by the 31st of December 2024, valuing in this region here $4.5 billion. And to date, none of those projects would have been completed. And if by chance any would have been completed, it is poor quality work. Poor quality work. And the persons who were awarded these contracts are not qualified and skilled persons to perform such duties. They do not have the necessary pieces of equipment to carry out these works. And at the time when these contracts were awarded, they did not reach the requirement, meaning that they did not have at that time NIS compliance, GRA compliance, business registration, and inventory of the pieces of tools and equipment they have. They did not have an organizational structure and many other things, but they were awarded. Contrary to the Procurement Act. And therefore, it is time for us to call out the Office of the Auditor General to sink deeply into monies allocated in 2024. And at this date today, that such sums of money are still being spent. This program would hope that in the Auditor General's report for 2024, that there is going to be a clear statement as to the number of cut checks for 2024 that were there on the 7th or 8th of January 2025 on paid checks. The number of checks and the value of those checks. Because when you put that together and you add what is still to be paid for 2024, you could not have closed your books on the 31st of December having all of these outstanding payments to be made and what checks are still at the sub-treasuries across this country. And so this program is very much concerned, very, very much concerned about all of these infractions and in these details. Let me touch a little bit about markets. Because as we go across this country, we get feedback. The Parika market is still to be completed. And based on information, based on an allegation, because it is not still completed, more money is needed. But let me tell you something about the Parika market. That is a milking cow for the PPP. The funds, Parika Hydroni market, it is a milking cow for the PPP, allegedly. Because it is alleged that sums of monies generated from those markets, Parika Hydroni markets, are all part and parcel allegedly of the spending by the PPP. Allegedly. And so somebody must be able to answer that or respond to this program. But when they respond to this, whatever derogatory way they respond, we are not going to answer them. We are not going to respond. So there is need for more money to be allocated for the proper completion. And if that allocation is made, then it is going to be the 5th time that additional money had to be placed for the completion of Parika market. Charity market. It is alleged that last week, a structure that was not properly done to the value of about some $31 million, allegedly, had to be broken down. Allegedly, we don't know, we are listening, and we are getting these things. And it is further alleged that in the allocation of stalls at that market, that some persons are told the matter is closed, no stalls available. And these are 20 by 30 stalls. But selected persons are given an opportunity, even those who are never there in those markets. And so there's a discriminatory way of the allocation of these stalls. Vendors have complained also that they were not part of any arrangement to speak to the design of the new market at Charity. How these stalls are going to be constructed, where the washroom facilities are going to be located, how the electrical work would be done, how the water supply system would be there, what are the terms and conditions of securing these stalls. And so they are left hanging. So the market, they would have allowed the persons, the vendors to move from the location on the public road. And now that they are there, they are complaining bitterly that 1 month ago, the contract was signed, but no work would have started. These vendors also complain that there was no time they were called to be able to be part of the design process. So they don't know what the size of stalls would be, how they would be located, where the washroom facilities would be located, how the electrical work would be done, how these stalls are going to. These are this is really poor planning. Poor planning as it relates to this construction of these markets. And people are venting their feeling and are very much concerned. Let us now, viewers, look at the Essequibo Funeral Parlor. It is alleged that that funeral parlor at Essequibo, which is located in Surrey on the Nimin area. Because you go through Surrey, and then there is a trench, and then the parlor is about. Wherever it is located, it is alleged that that parlor is privately owned. Allegation. And that the funds generated from what is being done there is not accounted for in any government book, state book, state record, financial record. But mind you, it is further alleged that the employees of that funeral parlor or home is on the payroll of the state, allegedly. It is further alleged that once there is construction work, extension, repairs, and what have you, it is state money that is being spent there. It is further alleged that all vehicles that are used there are all state vehicles. And it is alleged that all the employees are on record of being paid by the state. It is further alleged that utility bills, electricity, water, maybe telephone services, are all paid by the state. but funds generated from that facility, those funds are managed allegedly by the owners of that parlor, privately owned. And while we do not want to put any person in any difficult position, this program is kindly advising that someone from the public hospital study, maybe the hospital administrator might be in a better position to answer all those questions and to make those responses. By the way, it is alleged that this hospital administrator, allegedly, 4 years ago, meet the age of retirement, 55 years. But because she's a friend, family, and favorite of the PPP, she's still there. These are all things need to be investigated. And that is why this program, the topic of this program, the coming days, and what the coming days would be, that we all have to get ourselves in ensuring that all of these and more other infractions that we would have spoken about on this program are properly addressed. I want to turn very quickly about an alleged situation of the mayor of the town of Anna Regina. It is alleged that this mayor is going about the place using state vehicle, threatening persons, threatening vendors allegedly. Let me say to all persons that for this program, we can only conclude that he does not have 1% of what is required to be a mayor. And maybe because of that, he's suffering from the level of inferiority complex. And maybe as these threats are alleged, that he's doing them to build his confidence. But let me say to the public that this mayor is a paid, full-time paid employee of the state. He is a lecturer at the Esquivel Technical Institute, seconded to perform duties as mayor of the Anna Regina Town Council, with his full benefit salaries from the Esquivel Technical Institute. So why I'm saying this, because the question would have been asked. And as you go about this township, what he's doing, he's going about with state vehicle with some persons, trying to identify persons who he considered different from his belief, how they can be able to bring some discomfort. But this program is kind and would just kindly advise persons to be prepared to take the necessary legal actions when faced with these situations. Because it is this same mayor who would pass the area of Anna Regina and the area of Cotton Field, but more so in Anna Regina, where on the eastern side of the main carriageway, where you had a set pedestrian walkway, that this area is totally occupied by all the businesses between that part from the cotton field road there, so to speak, to the Anna Regina post office. He should take care of that and look at it. And you must point out all the infractions in this township when he comes to you with anything that is not keeping in line with what his duties are all about. And so it is time for us to be able to deal with this threatening language of the mayor. I want to conclude this program tonight by looking at a piece of correspondence sent to the permanent secretary dated the 22nd of January 2025 and from the coordinator book distribution. Poorly structured thing here. It says, please see attached quotation from Mohammed Bookstore Associates to something dictionaries, atlases, and replenishment of theater arts book for secondary schools in Guyana. They are bought, it can't be they, it has to be these because they are books. Are bought from Mohammed. It is compulsive. This that coordinator book is telling the PS, instructing her. They are being bought from, she telling, Mohammed bookstores, who, which it has to be which, right? Has full authorization, here this one, to resell to Guyana. See approval letters attached. You see what is happening in the Ministry of Education? Submitted, and you said that, and you said in the last paragraph, submitted for your approval to process tender award. Somebody was final. This Mohammed Bookstores Associates, where this, who is the owner and where this book is, where this thing here, because it says here Mohammed's Bookstore Associates Limited, what have you, Trinidad West Indies head office. And so the books are listed here. And next time we meet, it should be in a short while from now, I will go through the prices, the number of books, and they have to sort out who is Bob is. They have to sort out that. But this program is not dealing with that. We are dealing with the discrepancy of the letters here, the letter, and the books to be bought here. All these are necessary books. I spoke with a few persons who are teaching English A and English B. And when I show them this list here, they have said to me that these collections here are not proper collections or names of books to be used. Viewers, I think we had a meaningful interaction tonight. And we want to express our sincere gratitude and thanks to you. We do look forward for you submitting to us continuously areas in which you think we should focus on this program. We want to thank you again. Good night, and may God bless you.